My name is Dr. Grace Telesco. My name is Dr. Grace Telesco. My name is Dr. Grace Telesco. I'm joined by Dr. Teresa Lily White, Dr. Lenore Walker, Mr. Ed Densel. Investigation with Dr. T is something that actually was the brainchild of our dean, Dr. Durham. And now, coming up this next season, we're going to be doing it almost weekly, a weekly show on a Thursday night. So lots of really cool guests. It's not just police topics, it's not just corrections topics, but it's topics that are affecting us in kind of all areas. But one of the things that we hope to get across is raising awareness, educating about some of these really important topics like human trafficking, topics like disasters. We did a show, Confessions of a Serial Killer. So for this upcoming season, we've got a couple of really cool things. We're going to have a day in the life of a DEA agent. Another really cool one, which is really close to my heart, is going to be on September 11th. Because not only do we want to talk about 9/11 and the work of the NYPD, but I also want to really look at the mental health outcomes. You know, we also have the human trafficking panel. We are going to bring back our Brevard Sheriff, Sheriff Wayne Ivey. It's always a pleasure to have him on. We're going to have Unfound again, Ed Densel. He'll be coming back a few times, and that's going to be really exciting and interesting too. My name is Dr. Grace Telesco, and welcome to Investigation with Dr. T. And I am thrilled about my guest tonight. Harold Pryor was elected Broward State Attorney for the Florida's 17th Judicial Circuit in November 2020, and he leads a staff of 462 employees, including 213 prosecutors, whose mission is to make our community safer, while working to ensure justice, equity, and fairness for everyone affected by our criminal justice system. He's the first Black state attorney in Broward and the first Black man to be elected state attorney in Florida. State Attorney Pryor graduated from Nova Southeastern University, Shepherd Brook College of Law, where his classmates chose him to deliver the graduation commencement address. State Attorney Pryor strongly believes that securing a guilty verdict should never be a prosecutor's primary goal, but that the pursuit of truth, fairness, and justice should be paramount. As the county's chief law enforcement official, State Attorney Pryor is committed to seeking justice and standing up for what is right. He's committed to making sensible reforms to our criminal justice system, and he's dedicated to serving the people of Broward County and making our community safer and better for all who live, work, and play. And so please help me welcome State Attorney Harold Pryor. And there he is. And I just want to say something before we get going here. And that is that we were really privileged to be able to take an introduction to criminal justice class on a field trip to the court, where we got to meet Judge Porth, where we got to see Judge Catalina Avalos, where we got to see Melinda Blostein, all of these people that we met. And I think the last trip was to your office, sir. Yes, I think that was you were our last stop. And it was something that really, really hit me. Everything that you said, I kept saying, I got to get this guy on my show. And so we went up afterwards, and you were just so generous and gracious. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on, talking to our students, talking to all of our viewers about who you are, how inspiring you are, how committed, and your philosophy about the criminal justice system and about fairness and justice and equity. And so everybody, please welcome my guest, Harold Pryor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Telesco.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to start with just, tell us a little bit about your journey, your academic journey. So here you are, you're an undergrad. I think that you're I took this out of your bio, but you are a native Floridian,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
flow grown. You're flow grown.
Okay.
And so tell us a little bit about you and like what was going on for you in terms of what attracted you into criminal justice, what attracted you into the law, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I thank you first and foremost for having me. Thank you for sharing your platform with me, and I always enjoy an opportunity to speak with learners, educators, people that just want to continue their knowledge in the criminal justice realm and aspect, and anything that I can do to help further someone's interest and intrigue in the criminal justice realm, I'm all for it. What intrigued me really was just circumstances more so than anything. It wasn't a fascination with criminal law. It wasn't a fascination with crime dramas or anything like that. It was really for me what I'm doing and why I'm here and why I serve as state attorney was really for me how I view it as just necessity, really, just out of me really wanting and feeling a need that we need a change in the criminal justice system and a different outlook of the criminal justice system. I grew up in a relatively rough area, although it was a small rural town, excuse me. The crime per capita was relatively high. I have friends who were in and out of the justice system. I have family members who had drug addiction issues, mental health issues, family members who were victims of crime as well. And so I saw a criminal justice system no matter where you were on the spectrum. If you were accused of a crime from being a victim of a crime, I saw a criminal justice system treat people who looked like me, people who came from situations like me, people with mental health issues, drug addiction issues, you name it. I saw a criminal justice system treat them less than because of who they were or because of their status or because of their circumstance. And so for me, I always had an idea and I always vowed to myself that if I ever got to a position of education and power or means, that I was going to use my skill sets and talents to really try to change the criminal justice system or make it more fair and equitable. And so that's what brought me to the criminal justice realm and ultimately led me to go to law school.
And you are a shark.
Yes, I am. I'm a proud shark. I
Yes.
went to Nova for 3 years for law school. I started my education college career at University of Florida, did 4 years there, and then I went straight to law school right in Nova Southeastern University.
So, we have so many of our students who are interested. They have their CJ majors. Some of them are dual enrollment, where
Right,
they kind of secure their spot in the law school, but they have to take the LSAT.
right.
Do you have any? Because there are a few of them that are graduating now, which they probably, if they're graduating now, they already took the LSAT. But do you have any um, advice about law school itself and about maybe taking the LSAT and preparing for that? Because it's a hard exam.
Yes, it is a hard exam. If there is any advice that I would give anyone that's interested in going to law school, one, you don't have to major in one of those traditional law school, pre-law majors that you would hear. People would say literature, English, political science, philosophy, or criminal justice. I think it's admirable, and I think you should pursue actually what you're passionate about. And if criminal justice is your passion, pursue it. But also in your electives, I would strongly advise and suggest that you try to take electives that can help you towards uh, being a better law student, but also having a great LSAT score. And so, anything on theory, anything on logic. When I was undergrad, there was courses on logic, understanding logic. There were courses on being a better writer, better critical reading skills. Those are all necessary skills that you first need to have a good LSAT score because that helps you get into a better law school or good law school, or have options, if you will. And then also you need to take courses that really force you to vocalize your opinion, vocalize your thoughts. Classes that may force you to offer your opinion and speak, to really synthesize what you're reading and information. Classes that go more towards the Socratic method. The Socratic method is the method that is used pretty much in all law schools in the United States. The Socratic method obviously is named after the great philosopher Socrates. I don't know if he's great. It depends on who you ask. But the method, the teaching method, really is not a lecture format, and that was an eye opener for me. In undergrad, I was used to going to a course. Law professor, all I would see is the back of their head and their back, and they're writing the lecture out on the board, right? And you're copying whatever they write. Not much back and forth, not much, asking students, what is your opinion? What is your takeaway from what you read? And that's the Socratic method. The Socratic method is really an involved, interactory teaching and learning process where the students learn from each other. So if I was to ask you, what is the definition of a crime? Then I would randomly pick someone in my course and ask them, hey, what is the definition of crime? Or what is the general understanding of what an adjudication of guilt means, or versus a withhold of adjudication? And so it would be the student, based on their reading and understanding of that reading, they would then vocalize what actually that is. And then it would spawn further conversation on that. And then the law professor would put forth a scenario on, okay, if person A is in court and they plead guilty to a crime, what does that mean versus someone who's pleading that they are no contest and they're getting a withhold of adjudication, right? What does that mean in the criminal justice system? And so conversations would spawn from that, and then it could go into, how the criminal justice system affects people from different socioeconomic and racial backgrounds, and it can spawn to something else. That's the Socratic method. So you could walk away from a class saying, okay, what did I learn? But really, it's you taking notes, paying attention, and in pulling from that the law, and analyzing that and learning how to think analytically. And that's law school. It's not, you sit there and you regurgitate or follow and copy whatever a professor wrote. And so that
Right.
was an eye opener for me. So if anything or any advice that I could give any student is to grow and develop a love and affinity for reading, but also develop your skill set of analyzing and being able to read constructively and be able to pull whatever information that you need from what you're reading, but also be able to write persuasively as well.
Yeah. So I know you must have seen this in the paper. Well, actually, the paper. Like nobody reads the paper anymore, literally, right?
Right.
But anyway, in the news that there are some law schools now that are doing away with the LSAT, and
Right.
then and in place of the LSAT is going to be experience,
Hmm.
right? Well, what
Right.
I
Right.
know I said I was going to give you softball pitches, but I am going to ask you, what do you think about this?
That's fine.
What do you think about this?
I think it's a great I think it's a great indicator. I think life experiences can be a great indicator for admissions offices and committees to be more informed and to determine, this is the type of law student that we want, this is the type of community that we want. And I think it would provide for a more diverse um, law school experience for the law students that participate in those respective law schools. Some people are great test takers. Some people thrive and do well on a standardized test. For me, it varied, right? I don't think my test scores or my LSAT scores are an indicator of my intellect or my ability to do the job or to be a successful law student. And I think that's where we've been fatally flawed in legal profession, but primarily in law schools. I think they put too much bearing on actual LSAT scores. And the theory was, the better your LSAT score was an indicator for these schools that you probably have a high probability of passing the bar exam. Some have been able to say that there's a direct correlation to that. And I see both arguments to it, right? It's an indicator of, okay, you know how to prepare for an exam, so you're more than likely gonna translate that to when you study for the bar exam versus someone like me who's a first generation college student, first and foremost. One of my parents did not graduate from high school. I had no examples of lawyers or people to have graduated from college or get a secondary education in my family. And so I didn't know how to study for standardized tests. I didn't know until I got to college that people took SAT or ACT courses to prep for the SAT or ACT, right? I was one of those. I just showed up and took my SAT or ACT. I didn't realize the concept of you could get a service to help you prepare for those. And so some people don't have the resources to do that. And so, really, you're a lot of the schools were traditionally getting people who were just good test takers. They knew how to prep. They had the resources, to do that. Versus there are some people, they're just naturally gifted. They're brilliant. They can do those type of things, right? But generally, a lot of it is just based on whether or not you can take a standardized test better than certain people. And
Hmm.
sometimes you miss out on good people who can really bring and enhance these law schools and the law school experience and really evolve and grow the reach of some of these schools and some of the demographics and communities that these law schools can reach. So I'm a fan of it, but I do understand that there is some credence or credit to being able to bring someone in that can take an exam because it shows their willingness to prep and be able to pass the bar, because you can't be a lawyer unless and until you pass the bar exam for your respective state.
Right. And that's not gone away, right?
Right. No, that's not going away.
Yeah.
It's not, especially when you have big states like Florida, California, New York, where, people want to come to Florida. Well, it depends on who you ask there too, as well, but people want to go to certain states. And so when you have that, you have to have something that can really, create some screening process to where you can, not have a situation where the market's oversaturated. Even though people say the market is oversaturated, I don't believe we have honestly, I still don't believe we have enough lawyers in the state.
Hmm. Right.
Um, yeah,
So here's the thing. You get out of law school and you take the bar and you pass the bar. Now you're a licensed attorney and you've got a choice for your career. Like you can go into private practice, which I think you have had experience, but I think first you were a prosecutor,
right,
right? And
right.
then tell us a little bit about your career and that journey.
Yeah. So, give you my background. So when I first went to law school, I initially said, okay, I want to be a defense attorney. I thought prosecutor, but I thought maybe a public defender. Went to law school and had an opportunity to apply. But also, I had an offer right out of law school with a prominent law firm in the Tampa Bay area. And so I took that position. I was offered a job 4 months, 3 to 4 months before graduation. It was a great opportunity. It was a prominent firm that did government law, that represented governmental entities. And I thought that was the route that I was going to go. And so I went for a year and a half, and I was just miserable, making good money, but I was just miserable. And I always had a passion to get into the criminal justice realm, because that was the reason why I wanted to be a lawyer. It wasn't to make a lot of money. It wasn't to be a high powered attorney. It was really just to um, really get into the system and use my skill set and talents to really help people. And so I went into private practice for about a year and a half, and I was miserable. I didn't get to go to trial. You're really doing the work that the partners or firms that don't want to do. And so I left. So about a year and a half in, I left. I took a pay cut and I became an assistant state attorney in Broward County working for Michael Sachs. And so I was there for about 3 years, where I started in the misdemeanor trial unit, worked my way up to the felony trial unit, where I was a lead prosecutor, where I tried primarily first degree cases, attempted murders, arson, you name it, robberies, burglaries. And I had a great opportunity, really, to administer justice, but also sometimes give people second chances that deserve a second chance, to be in a room and be a part of discussions where people like me traditionally weren't in those discussions, and giving input and giving context as to what was going on in the situation. And so doing that was the best time of my life, because I really got to do meaningful work, help victims of crime, help keep the community safe, help look at it from a different lens and bring a diverse outlook and view in the criminal justice system, particularly on the prosecutorial side. And then I went into private practice, and then I became a general counsel. And then once again, about 6 years into practice of law, I then ran to be a state attorney in 2021, and we had the historic outcome. And so now I've been in for 4 years now.
Congratulations. That's so awesome. And I think that it's important for some of our viewers to understand that depending on the state that you're in, it's going to be called something different. Your position. Like for example, I come from New York, so that's even though I've been here 20 years and I'd like to think that I lost my accent, but maybe I haven't. Maybe that the joke is on me, but we call it the district attorney. So the district attorney, and there
Right.
were different district attorneys for each counties, each of the five boroughs, five counties.
That's
And so is there any other term that we should familiarize the audience with?
Yeah, so props we're all referred to interchangeably as prosecutors. That's a general term that everyone falls under. Whether you're a district attorney, like you said, in New York and Georgia, and there's certain other and California and some other states where they refer to prosecutors as DAs, district attorneys, and then you have states like Chicago, Illinois, and particularly Chicago, Cook County, and you have Baltimore, Maryland, and certain other states as well and Florida in particular, prosecutors are referred to as state attorneys. Some are referred to as state's attorneys. In Florida, it's state attorney. And so in Florida, there are 67 counties, right? But also there are 20 judicial circuits in the state of Florida. All of those 67 counties fall within those 20 judicial circuits. Some circuits have 5 counties in them, some have 10, some have one. I happen to be in the 17th Circuit in Broward County, where it's only one county. And so I'm the prosecutor for the 17th Judicial Circuit. We have about 2 million people here in the circuit. So if you hear prosecutors, DAs, or state attorneys, we're all the same thing, but we all fall under the umbrella of prosecutors. We prosecute criminal offenses.
And it's such a big position. I mean, this isn't small potatoes, right?
Right.
And like you were explaining, like the money's not really there. Just like teachers,
Right.
the money's not there, right? This is a public service, and it
It truly
truly
is.
is a calling, right?
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. I'll give you a lens. I went or a lens into when I started. When I started in the office in 2014, the starting salary was $40,000 a year. That was the starting salary. And then eventually, sometime around 2018, the starting salary jumped up to 50. And then when I took office, we got up to 60, and then we got up to 65. And now the starting salary is 68, and it's going to go up to probably 70,000 soon, right? By the next fiscal year. And we're still behind. The cost of living in Broward County, South Florida, the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach metropolitan area, inflation has affected us more than any metropolitan area in the United States. We're number one on that list. And so we're a little behind. We should have been making, or our assistant state attorney starting out should have been making 60 to 70 10 years ago. And so that's how far behind we are. But I mean, it's not, I mean, it's pretty similar throughout the country. I mean, if you go to Chicago, in Cook County, they start their ASAs at 70,000. There's some they start them out between 70 and 80,000. There's some that start them out at 90, maybe 100. That's more in California, and I think in certain jurisdictions in Georgia. But yeah, it's really public service. You're a public servant. But I will say this: when you look at people in the medical profession and other professions, they oftentimes get to have a residency, or they get to have a situation where they get paid, but they're learning their craft. I would equate being an assistant state attorney or a prosecutor or being an assistant public defender. Um, I would equate that to that. You actually spending the first 2 to 3 years of your career just honing the craft and doing things that 80% of the members of the Florida bar don't have an opportunity to do. That is to pick a jury trial and to actually try cases in front of a jury. Not many lawyers, believe it or not, of the 100,000 lawyers that we have in the Florida bar, it's a relatively small percentage, probably less than 15%, that actually get to try cases. And so that's a beautiful thing about being assistant state attorney. I found when I left the office after 3 years, there were people that I worked in civil firms with who had been practicing law for 10, 15 years that never did a jury trial in their career.
Wow. Wow. You want to introduce us to the little one?
Yeah, she's just coming back. You want to say hi? Want to say hello? Oh, now
Who is this?
hi. Yeah, So you want to say hi and then you go with mommy and say hello? Say hello. Say hi. No?
No.
Well, I'll see you later, okay? All right. Bye bye. All right. Yeah.
She's beautiful. So
Years
yeah,
old.
I think that I don't want us to talk our students out of public service, but we've had like Melinda Blaustein was on
Right.
public defender, and the public defender doesn't make a lot of money either. So
Right.
if you're in that profession or that specific unique field, legal aid, we call it that, in some of the places, but being a public defender, which is such valuable work, is like you're so overworked and underpaid, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it sounds like it's the same thing for prosecutors.
It is very much the same thing. So for example, and I'm not to talk trash about public defenders. Public defenders are probably the best defense attorneys in our circuit. I hate how they get a bad rap. Public defenders are really good. They really try a lot of great cases and do a good job with the amount of cases they actually have. But on average, a public defender is probably only going to have the average public defender is probably only going to have somewhere between 30 to 60 cases, right? That's a lot, right? The average prosecutor in my office is going to have 300 to 400 cases, right?
What?
Yes,
What?
400 cases exactly. And so it's really trial by fire. But I'll tell you this much: the reason why I always say that it's great to start your career out as a state attorney, assistant state attorney, is because just the level of respect for you and your marketability future wise goes up substantially. If I was to pull randomly attorneys who've been practicing law for 10 plus years, right? Attorneys who have been practicing law for 10 plus years, who went into private practice versus those attorneys that went into straight to private practice. I guarantee you that, yeah, although you have attorneys that may have started out as solo practitioners, their own law firm, or attorneys that start out in civil practice, yes, right out of law school, they're making good money, six figures, right? Well, you'll see that their salaries kind of just stay the same. It'll increase, but it'll stagnate after a certain period of time versus that person that maybe decided to be a prosecutor or maybe decided to be a public defender. Let's say they do it for 2 years or 3 years, right? Yeah, they're making 68. Then they go up to 75. Then they might make it up to 80, right? But once they go into private practice, and if they go to one of those big firms that are looking for people with trial experience, they're going to start somewhere around the same amount or even more than people that have been practicing for 3 or 4 years. Because one, they probably had at 3 years, you've had more than 20 jury trials under your belt, right? You've tried meaningful cases and they trust you more to go speak in front of a judge and a jury because you've done it. And so
Yeah.
you notice that their salary potential goes up exponentially compared to someone who may have started out. So I often tell people, yeah, it sucks. You're not going to make as much money as some of your colleagues. However, you're investing in your future and your earning potential goes up substantially. I'm a living proof of it. That was my situation. I did it for 3 years, went in private practice, and I was making just as much or more than some of my peers who had started out in civil, not doing meaningful cases. I got to do more meaningful things in civil because I could back it up. I could write a demand letter in a personal injury case or a contractual dispute, write a demand letter and say, hey, if you don't respond by the 10th day or 15th day or the 30th day, we're going to file suit and we're going to go to trial. I wasn't afraid. I've actually been to trial. We can do it, right? Versus some of
Right.
my colleagues, they'd never been there and they wouldn't know what to do once they were asked to pick a jury. So that's why it's an investment in your future. I really truly believe it's a long-term investment in your future, but also you get to do meaningful work and give back to the community.
So I know I said that I was going to do a lot of softball pitches, and I am, and I did, right?
No
Now
problem.
it's going to get a little complicated, a little complex, because we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, all right? Our criminal justice system, there's a couple of things going on. Number one, we have very high recidivism.
Yeah, yeah,
Number one. Number two, we have overcrowded prisons.
yeah.
We are a prison complex.
Hmm.
It's a prison industry, right?
Right.
Where do people of color and the poor and people with mental illness and people with addiction
Mhm.
fall into this whole thing? And
Right. Well,
what are your thoughts on all of that?
it might be surprising for you to hear this from me. As a chief law enforcement officer in this county, someone that oftentimes we do put people in prison. I do put people in prison. Um, I'll tell you that the criminal justice system is grossly inequitable and grossly unfair to people of color and poor folk. And it's not my doing. It's just been how the criminal justice system has worked out for years. It's been grossly unfair to people of color and poor folk. And so my job is to figure out how we make the system more fair and equitable and how we do things, be mindful of that. And so, yes, we do have a prison industrial complex where it seems that people are incentivized to put more people in prison. And it's also a pervasive mindset or viewpoint in this country that confinement, imprisonment equates to public safety or safety, right? And I find that to be fatally flawed. I do think imprisonment there is a place for imprisonment. There is a place for confining people, and I think you should. And obviously, I feel if you kill someone, if you victimize people on a consistent basis and repeatedly, I think yes, prison is designed for you. If you're selling drugs that like fentanyl that it can fatally be fatal and someone can die from it, and you're knowingly doing that, I do think prison is designed for individuals of that nature. However, I think public safety, there are other means to achieving public safety, right? And I do believe that if you follow the academics, whether they're conservative or liberal, there's one thing they've all agreed to. The more educated a person is, the more economic opportunity that an individual has, the less likely they are one to commit a crime and the less likely they are to reoffend, the recidivism rate. And so, to me, that affects the public safety as well. If I'm able to give someone a second chance who may commit a crime, that if they commit that crime and we put them in a traditional criminal justice system sense, we imprison them or we put them on probation, but we don't address the root causes of their issues, then they're going to be repeat offenders. The recidivism rate stays high, right? And then this public isn't safe because that person who burglarized and broke into someone's home and we never address that issue, statistics show they tend to graduate to more serious crimes because if a person is willing to break in your home, then what statistics are showing and what I've seen from my experience as a prosecutor, the probability of them harming someone else physically or killing someone goes up substantially, right? So why not when we get that person that commits one of those offenses and we know where the line where they could go down, why don't we offer services to address those issues? And so I happen to be one of those that actually believe that there are other means to really affect the public safety positively. So prison is one option, but another option is our court to college program. We have a program in partnership with Broward College. If you commit a nonviolent felony offense, we'll get you into a Broward College program that'll help you get a GED. And if you have a GED, they'll help you get a particular certification in a skilled labor position. And also they'll help you potentially get an AA. And so that's aligned with the studies. The more educated a person is, the less likely they are to commit a crime. We also have a program titled Economic Empowerment Today in partnership with OIC of South Florida. If a person commits a nonviolent felony offense, they will get them job skill training. And also after they complete that successfully, OIC of South Florida will help those individuals find a job. They will find them a job, get them job placement, and then we will downgrade or drop their felony charge. That's both for our court to college program with Broward College, and that is for our economic empowerment today program with OIC of South Florida. So this is us not slapping people on the hand and hoping we don't see them again. This is us giving them the tools that they need to where they can be productive citizens in society. This is us being consistent with the academics who opined on this issue, whether they're liberal or conservative. We're helping them get educational opportunity and economic opportunity. And if they get those things, the numbers are clear. It is consistent that they will not commit another crime again. They will not reoffend, and the recidivism rates go down. And this is me not putting people in prison, not us expending tax dollars to house and confine someone. And also, we have mental health diversion programs. We have a drug diversion program to help people with those issues. So, another way to look at it from the criminal justice system is not to be overly punitive, but identify whatever that person's issue is and what's causing them to commit these crimes or what's causing a child to exhibit delinquent behavior, address those issues, put resources into that so we're not expending resources down the road because they're repeat offenders. And so we can use those fundings for something else, for a better education, better infrastructure, you name it. And so that's my look on it. It's not the traditional look of law and order that's lock people up and throw away the key. It's really taking a holistic approach of how do we keep our community safe with bold new approaches, i.e., through job and educational programs.
Yeah. And really looking at the root cause, like you said, that root cause analysis is so important because there's a lot of factors to help explain why someone might be more prone to delinquency and to criminal behavior. But something that you is in your bio, which I really, really appreciate, was it's like practical reform. And so we hear a lot today about reform, especially reform of police, reimagining policing. If you were to reimagine the court system, what would be your top thing that you would say your strategies?
For reform. I think so. In my office, we have three basic ideals, three basic premises that we're built on. First and foremost, one is to ensure that we have safer communities, right? Two is to invest in people, right? And finally, three is ensure that there's some form of fairness and justice, right? Pursuing justice, but ensuring that there's fairness in how we pursue that justice. So once again, it's ensuring that we have safer communities, investing in people, whether that be internally or whether that be externally through our community programs, and then ensuring that there's fairness and justice. And so for me, one is to be reasonable and prudent in how we pursue it. Um, Honestly, I don't care where you stand on the spectrum, whether you're an abolitionist or whether you're a lock everyone up in jail. I know people don't like it when I say this, from either spectrum might not like it, but the reality is we're never going to be right now in a system where there's going to be a total abolitionist society. I think it's aspirational, right? And also to those who want to just lock people up and just be law and order and overly punitive, we're never going to be that in this country. And so we have to find a happy medium that works for us as a society. And so that's the harsh reality that some of us have, right? And so for me, how do I really try to understand and really appease both sides, understanding that there are good points in both, right? There are people in society, dangerous people in society, that there's no amount of counseling, there's no amount of services that I can offer that's going to change that person or individual, right? They have to want to get help. And unfortunately, there are people that don't want to get help. I'll tell you this much, these great programs that I've mentioned, my Port to College program and my Economic Empowerment Today program, we've had people, believe it or not, we've leveraged prison time. Say you go to prison or you get enter in one of these programs that's going to help you and give you better access to education, better economic opportunity. You get to leave here with the job. No, we'll take prison time, right? That's just a harsh reality that people don't want to accept, right? We have many programs to help people with mental health issues and drug addiction issues. But as you all know, if you ever dealt with anyone that's dealing with a mental health issue or anyone that's dealing with a drug addiction, with mental health issue, if it involves meds, you taking your meds, the first thing is that person has to be willing to follow that schedule and take their meds, right? That's first and foremost. Or if someone has a drug addiction issue, they have to first take that first step of acknowledging that I have a problem and I want to fix that problem, right? And so that's the harsh realities of the criminal justice system. That's the harsh realities of, hey, I hear the talks about homeless shelters, and I think we need to build homeless shelters. And there's so many homeless shelters throughout this country and throughout this county. However, at the end of the day, you can't force anyone to sleep in a homeless shelter, right? You can't force anyone to avail themselves to those services. And that's the harsh reality and a hard pill that I've had to swallow since being in office with all the aspirations and goals that I have. So what I have to do is try to balance and say, okay, what can I do to give the people an opportunity to avail themselves to these programs, and how can I incentivize people to join these programs? And that's really the bar for me. And so for me is to really to try to address drug addiction issues and mental health issues, because we see that rampant in the criminal justice system. But also was for me, which is groundbreaking, which really never been done before, is introducing from my office some form of programs that offers economic opportunity and educational opportunity. And I believe if you address the mental health component, the drug addiction component, and now what we're doing, which you've really never seen before, we're addressing the educational component and a lack of economic opportunity component. Um, I think those are the four main things, the common things that we see in the criminal justice system, that if we address those issues and we attack them fairly and equitably, we can reverse the mass incarceration issue that we have in this country. We can address the public safety issues, because we now are affecting the root causes of these issues. And then also we're dealing with fairness, ensuring that we're fair. I have a data transparency project where I have a forward-facing dashboard. Anyone can go to my website and see how we're prosecuting crimes across demographical lines and geographical location. And so this is a way for the community to hold me accountable, but also this is a way for me to hold myself and my attorneys accountable. So to ensure that we're giving fair offers, no matter who you are, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your zip code, no matter your socioeconomic status. And so those are the ways that I try to really reform the system. And those are my outlook. That's my outlook on the criminal justice system. I think if I touch on those points, transparency, which is the data forward facing dashboard that I have on my website, addressing mental health, drug addiction, lack of economic opportunity, a lack of educational opportunity, and also offering a second chance to our youth, to our children. I think that is a recipe for potential success and a recipe for us reversing some of the negative effects that the criminal justice system have had on marginalized communities.
So we know that you're innocent until proven guilty. And we know
Right.
that the burden of proof lies with the prosecution. We know that. So, really, if you're in prison or you're somewhere in the system, chances are you're guilty, right?
Yeah, you know, we are in a system where you are innocent unless or until you're proven guilty. But we know that the criminal justice system hasn't traditionally been that. Also, particularly in public opinion, right? And so the system is supposed to work that way. And I really try to comport our system, our office, to those principles. Um, the system, once again, is heavily stacked. I would argue, though, however, in more progressive jurisdictions, I feel that the playground is a little leveled. Honestly, when you look at Broward County, when you look at um, just the state of Florida in general, our discovery laws, we have to disclose everything. You know, there's certain circuits where there's certain jurisdictions around the country where the defendant is not they don't have the right to have a deposition before trial. There's certain things that they're not obligated to get before trial, right? There is this overarching constitutional U.S. constitutional obligation for prosecutors to provide exculpatory information, evidence, which is or that could lead one to believe that the person who's accused of a crime may not have committed that crime. I have an obligation to provide that information to the defendant, the person that's accused, and their defense attorney. So, irrespective of what you might watch, if you watch Power or if you watch Law and Order or some of these other shows where you have prosecutors that are hiding the ball and not disclosing anything, that's against the Constitution. That's against the law. And so in Florida, we're Sunshine State, right? We have sunshine laws where very broad discovery laws, and so we have to disclose everything. And so I would have to say, you know, I'm proud of how we're a bit more fair and equitable in that sense. I feel that the playing ground is somewhat leveled compared to other jurisdictions where you're really, if you're a defense attorney, you're totally in the dark. Here, you're probably in the dark only for, I'd say, max 30 days until you get your discovery. And then everything that you have is everything that we have, absent
Mhm.
our trial strategy, how we're going to build the case. But you have all the evidence that we have. It's just you just don't know how we're going to build our strategy. which I think is a great thing. Versus in some states, you don't get a lot of things that we're gonna have. Some states you're not even you don't even have a real right to depose anyone, have a deposition, really to understand what someone might say before they get on the stand. Here in the Florida, you can depose anyone, right?
Mm.
As opposed to certain states and even the feds, you get discovery, and the first time you can hear from a person or understand what they might say is on the stand at trial. But that's not how it is in state law for state of Florida. So I mean, coming from my perspective, I feel that the field is pretty level in that sense, or it has leveled out a little bit more. But yeah, there has been, people say you're innocent until proven guilty, but in today's society, that it's necessarily not the case, because now you have the media component where the media can opine, and the general public give their opinion on what they think, and they don't have the full evidence or context as to what happened or what the lawyers that are actually litigating the case might have.
Right. And today, when I was growing up, I'm much older than you. There were three channels and there was only one news, like, well, maybe two news shows, like one at 6 o'clock and then one at 11 o'clock.
11.
Now it's right at your fingertips. It's right on your phone. It's on your computer. It's everywhere. We are bombarded with information from, various media outlets. And, sometimes the trial by media is what happens. You're
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
So I want to just switch a minute to the plea bargain.
Right.
How much of a role do you think the plea bargain plays in actually mm, making some innocent people guilty?
It plays a role traditionally. Sometimes um prosecutors, public defenders, just in general in the court system, there's so many cases that it's easy for you to feel pressure to let's just move cases along. That's clear the backlog of cases, and so traditionally you would have offers just being offered just to move things along, and some people feeling pressure that they need to take the offer because they could get a stiffer sentence if they don't take it, right? And so that's a real thing in the criminal justice system. I'm proud to say that we've really had a concerted effort when I've been in office to really look at that, really encourage our attorneys to give the best offers, whatever those offers are, but also to really scrutinize the cases, to really look into things, to really do the background, to really see if in fact we truly believe that this person is the person that committed the crime. Do we have a good faith basis to bring a case forward? That's our standard. Do we have a good faith basis to bring a case forward, and is there a reasonable likelihood of conviction, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
really our bar. And so when we look at a case, if we feel that we have a good faith basis to bring that case, we're going to bring it. And so we have reason to believe that, hey, this person was the person that committed the crime. We have the DNA, we have the fingerprints, we have witness accounts, or we have other things that can tie that person to that particular crime. We have a good faith basis to go forward. Now, if you have a situation where we don't have anything, there's nothing that can really point us or lead us to believe that this person committed that crime, and is based on one independent factor, let's say an ID of the person, and that ID is not really based on strong or good foundation, then you're probably not going to bring that case. And so that's where we are. That's how we try to approach these cases. We never look at it as wins or losses. I always say that we never chalk up our outcomes in our cases to wins and losses. We literally, our only bar, and what I tell our attorneys is to only seek justice. And justice is whatever the outcome may be, us pursuing a case, taking a trial, getting a guilty verdict, or us pursuing a case, taking a trial, and there's a not guilty verdict, or us dropping a case, or us pleading the case out. We have to pursue justice. We can't be concerned with getting wins or losses, or getting a guilty or not guilty verdict. And I think if you set that as your bar, then it doesn't matter what your offer is going to be. It's going to be based on the evidence. It's going to be based on the facts, and it's going to be based on whether or not that you believe that you have a good faith basis to have these charges against that individual, and whether or not there's a reasonable likelihood of conviction based on the fact that we have a good faith basis. And so that's our bar. It's never
Yeah.
based on conviction rates or us getting a guilty or pursuing a moniker or something to say, hey, we have 90% or 100% conviction rate.
Right, right. So this last question, before we go to the actual questions that are blowing up in the chat here, both in the webinar as well as in the YouTube chat. So you talked a lot about, all these different variables that go into explaining reentry success for someone. You explained about education. You talked about socioeconomics. You talked a lot about mental health and addiction and all of this. So, my question is, and what role does family and social support play for individuals and stigma? Because I know that if like I'm convicted of a felony, I've been arrested and convicted, and I go to get a job on every job application from this point forward, I'm going to have to tell the truth. Oh, or I suppose I could lie too, but people get caught doing that. They're really finished also. But I mean, bottom line is, who wants to hire someone who has a conviction? So it makes it really difficult. Stigma. So the question really is here, how does family and social support play a role, and how does stigma play a role in society?
Family, yeah, family and support plays a critical role. And it's something that we have to figure out as a society. I will tell you this, and it's just a fact. A lot of the children, not all of them, but a lot of children that we come in contact with, and our youth justice unit, which is formerly known as juvenile unit. I no longer call our youth justice unit juvenile unit, but they deal with juvenile cases in the juvenile division. Um, Many of the kids that are committing these crimes, many of them don't have a strong family foundation. I'm not talking about the nuclear family structure that you may see on TV, Family Matters or the Cosbys, if you will, the mom and dad household. I'm talking about a strong nuclear family, a situation where there's a support system where they have responsible individuals helping guide them in their lives. And so what I'm finding is that a lot of these offenders, these young youthful offenders, they don't have that guidance. And there are some that do have that guidance and they're just lost and they're trying to figure their way. And we try to offer services to help them figure out their way and their path. Those individuals who get into the criminal justice system, adults, and when they come back, we notice that one of the crucial things is if you're not if you don't have wraparound services available to them the moment they're released from prison or the moment they're taken off of supervision, their success rate goes down substantially, right? The probability of them being successful, the probability of them not committing a crime, it goes down substantially. And so, what we try to do, and what I've been partnering with, and we're just trying to get more data and get information. I'm partnering with local elected officials where we've partnered with Department of Corrections and they release the information of individuals that are being released into their cities and their jurisdictions. When someone's being released from prison, they have to give an address where they're going to go because they have to report for supervision and everything that goes along with it. And so what we're trying to do is identify services, for example, ID, helping them to get their ID if it applies to them, getting their social security benefits, helping them get medical, helping them find a job, helping them to get whatever they need to get acclimated to society. And so we've realized that the first 40 hours, the first week, first month of their release is ever so critical because that could be the difference from that person reoffending and getting back into the system. And so I've taken the approach of I'm not only concerned with, and traditionally prosecutors are only concerned with what are the cases that we're dealing with in front of us. Do we imprison them or do we put them on probation? Let's move the cases along and let's move on to the next thing. I think it's my obligation as the chief law enforcement officers to ensure that we better ensure the public safety, right? And so by doing that, I need to be concerned with what happens to these individuals once we're put them in prison or once we put them under supervision and what services can we get them to ensure that they're successful so they don't reoffend and by nature we're safer as a community. And so I think we need to be more concerned about that in the criminal justice aspect and law enforcement and prosecution. We need to be concerned with that thereafter. right? And I think if we take that holistic approach on the front end, we'll notice recidivism rates go down. We'll notice the success rate of returning citizens go up substantially
Mhm.
because we factored all that in when this person came into our jurisdiction and came in front of us in a courtroom. If we take that holistic approach on the front end, I think we'll be better as a society and we'll be more successful, but also training family members and really getting family members involved because they need
Yes.
that support system when they do, in fact, come back.
Mhm. Excellent, excellent. So, oh my gosh, well, we could talk for hours and hours, but we're almost out of time. So I wanted to give an opportunity to Justin and Layla to start fielding some questions from the chat. So we've got the webinar chat going, and we also have the YouTube chat going. Layla and Justin, do you want to come on and take turns?
Yes, we definitely have both chats um going live. They're going crazy.
Yeah.
So I think I'll do the webinar chat. Some of the questions were answered, how you just answered the last one about the different services that you provide. So I'll do one by Will. His
Okay.
question is, how difficult is it to prosecute a case that relies on witness testimony, but witnesses ultimately change their mind about testifying as a result of the street code no snitching?
It's extremely difficult. We deal with that all the time. We deal with that in our high profile cases. And we deal with cases where they're not high profile cases, right? It's the stigma of being labeled a snitch. But oftentimes when we have that discussion with people, we have to really ask them, if you're not concerned about your safety, are you concerned about your loved one's safety? Because at the end of the day, um you have to take a stand. At the end of the day, you have to take onus and you have to take responsibility for your tribe, for your community safety, right? And so it's a tough thing to overcome. I lived in a neighborhood where, there was that fear, that stigma, but also I understand that if you want to live in a society, if you want to live in a community where you can go to your mailbox and not get hit upside the head, or if you want to be able to walk freely and go to the park and just thrive and not worry about being harmed, then you're going to have to be willing to be courageous and stand up and speak out against these people that are victimizing individuals in our community. And it's just really simple as that. It's not complicated. It really isn't that complicated to me in that sense. But I do understand the real challenges that you face because yeah, I can stand here and speak out against this individual in this courtroom, but I have to go back to that same condition, that neighborhood, and you guys are gonna move on to the next situation and I have to deal with their associates and the people that are associated with them. And so it really comes with the mindset that we're going to have to change throughout these communities is that there can be better and we can do better, but we all have to be willing to do that and we have to offer opportunities. If you offer economic opportunities where people see the benefits of that, then they're less likely to engage in criminal activity. And it's really as simple as that. But we have to have leaders and elected officials that are willing to put resources in these communities to turn that culture around, to turn that around. And until you do that, we're going to continue to see situations like that. But it is tough. It is tough to try cases and deal with cases when you have witnesses that aren't cooperative.
Great. Good
Yeah,
question. I mean, I know you guys are going to be because we're really almost out of time here. So let's say choose one from the YouTube chat that really kind of
okay.
stands out.
Okay. You have one?
Yep. So one question from the YouTube chat is from David. They were asking, as you are understanding the criminal justice system could benefit from a multitude of reforms, what would you identify as the most pressing problems facing the criminal justice system?
That's a great question. I think the pressing problem that we're facing in the criminal justice system is really how do we deal with violent crime? And how do we deal with combating violent crime? Because the old model just isn't working. And I think it's deeper than just putting law enforcement in neighborhoods and having them crack down on it. I really think now we're at a point where now we need to get into the psychological aspect of it. What's motivating these people to commit these crimes, but also get to having more of a sense of community. What I kind of alluded to earlier, because we're noticing just there's no sense of community. And I think many of the people are not realizing how their actions are affecting not only themselves, but affecting their families, affecting generations of people that are going to follow behind them. And I think it's much deeper now. But really, the more pressing issue is how do we build a sense of community? Because if you build a sense of community, you'll notice the crime rates go down. You know, you're going to be less likely to mug someone or to steal someone from someone in your neighborhood because they live right down the road from you.
Right, that's good.
So you can see these two, right? You
Yes,
see these two right before you. This is the future of criminal justice right here. And I told you earlier before the show started that Justin, tomorrow we gonna fingers crossed, pray for him. 38 sit-ups in 1 minute he's got to do for his big medical for the not medical but physical, the physical I'm assuming it's physical agility test for the DEA. So we wish him really, really well. He's graduating. He's up for a big award. He's up for student employee of the year.
awesome.
And yeah, I mean, just like unbelievable. And Layla is, she's just unbelievable. The sky's the limit. She
Yeah,
was able to get an internship with the Davie Police. And so, it's an unpaid internship, but right, aren't internships really important?
they are.
And do you do it? Do you have interns? Do you just
Yeah, we do.
get lawyers?
Yeah, we do. We take interns on a limited basis or limited time frame during the summers. So if anyone's interested, they can go to our website at browardsao.com. And you'll go to career opportunities, and then you'll just fill out the application, send the email to the individual or to the email that it says send it to, and we'll try to fit you in. But we do offer internships to college students, and we have allowed some high school students on a limited basis, but we do try to expose people to the criminal justice system through our office. So, yeah,
Excellent.
go to
Excellent.
BrowardSAO.com.
That's awesome. So my wheels are turning a little bit. Is there any other way that we could maybe partner with you? Because you mentioned the school across the street, and we're all about the Sharks here. So how could we partner
I think we
with
should, and
your office?
I'd be more than happy to partner in any way that I can. We're already partnering with the School of Psychology over there. We're trying to expose those individuals that are going to be receiving their doctorates, their candidates for the doctorate degrees. We're exposing them to the criminal justice side on the prosecutorial side, if you will. And so we're giving them exposure to prosecution. Traditionally, they've gotten access on the defense side through public defenders. We felt it was best to also provide them a lens through the prosecution side. And so we're only doing that exclusively with NOVA, Southeastern University's doctorate program. And so that's one thing that we're collaborating, but I'm always looking for opportunities to collaborate. We collaborate with the law school for the clinic program. We always have probably 10 plus third year law students that participate in our certified legal intern program, where in your last year, you could be sworn in on a limited purpose with the Florida Bar, where you can speak on the record and try cases, try jury trials as a law student. But you have to have a lawyer supervise you, but they're there with you. So you have people before they graduate law school, they've already had 3, I've heard as high as 5 trials under their belt. So we have partnerships, but I would love to explore ways we could partnership on the undergraduate level to expose
Right.
sharks to my office.
Yes, yes, because I know, of course, we love the law school, and of course we love the College of Psychology, but we're we're really intimate with our school, the School of Criminal Justice. And
Exactly.
so we definitely want to, maybe follow up with you if it's all right. I mean, no, I'm pressuring you right now in
No,
front
I
of
would love to.
everybody,
No, it's
but
not pressure at all. It's what I want, and I think it's
great.
required of us. We need to do that, and I think we should. So I would love to explore that, and you have my word. We can figure something out to create something, create a space for those that are majoring in criminal justice to get access and exposure to our office. So I'm definitely
Excellent.
dedicated to that. Yeah.
Wonderful. And don't forget, like, the undergrads are my favorites. It's true. Although I'm sorry, I have a lot of my PhD students on, so I have to really say that they're my favorites as well. The parent can't just really have a favorite. So,
Right.
but
Right.
but we also have our PhD program in criminal justice, and so the sky's the limit in terms of free. If you want some free research for any of these programs you're talking about, because everything today is evidence based, right?
Very much.
And so that's where the researchers come in. So if you have any ideas about how maybe we could partner with the PhD students and your office, it might be a win-win for all of us.
Right. Likewise, if there's any ideas and anything that anyone wants to approach us with information, please feel free. I'm
Great.
open to doing that and
Well,
exposing ourselves to that. Yeah.
sir, you have the last word. Anything you want to say, and then I'll close it out.
Oh, just keep on keeping on. Always, fight the good fight. Never give up. Never be discouraged. There are always going to be people that are going to tell you that you can't because of whatever your circumstances are. You live here. You look a certain way. You go to a certain school. You didn't grow up in this particular socioeconomic area. What you name it, people will come up with excuses and place their limitations on you. But you have to realize that it's their projection of their limitations and it's not what you're projecting on yourself. So if you see something and if you believe it and you think you can do it, go for it and don't let anyone discourage you, because if someone is trying to discourage you and trying to keep you from doing something, it's because they're placing their limitations on you. So always reach for the sky and never listen to the naysayers.
Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Again, thank you to Harold Pryor, our state attorney, for taking the time out of his amazingly busy schedule to be with us, to share insight, to inspire us, to motivate us, and I really am grateful. So we'll be talking soon, and thank you, sir.
All right.
We'll
Thank
see.
you for having me. Thank you all. Take care. Have a good
Yeah,
one.
we'll see you soon.
All right.
So, I just want to also put a little plug in here for, again, for our Stage for Change people, right? So this is the sociodrama group that finished up the performance today for the BEDI Council Diversity Summit. We did microaggressions today, and it was really well received. So it was a total of 7 performances that this group did. I'm going to spotlight Layla and Justin because they are the, along with Shannon and Maya and Chloe and Eddie and Annie and all of the students that work. These are undergrads that work very, very hard to help educate through theater work. And so congratulations to you guys, because you're Stewie nominees, finalists for the Stewie. And see, so Harold knows what the Stewies are because he's a shark. We're also nominated for a Goldfin Award for Social Political Action Organization of the Year. And so I just can't tell you how proud I am of you and everything that you do. Just movers and shakers, seriously. And when you get sad and you get like frustrated and disappointed with society, you just have to look at these two here and you'll know that there's hope. There's hope for the future. So thank you guys again for being with us. Thank you to the dean. Thank you to Dr. Durham for her unending support of everything that we do. Dr. Castro, Dr. Kushner, everybody in the Fischler College of Education School of Criminal Justice that help us behind the scenes to get these shows out and market them. So look, next week we don't have a show next week. We don't have a show next Thursday, but we have 2 more shows after that. We have actually Chief James Poland from the Davie Police Department is going to be on to talk about recruitment and retention and some other issues and strategies of policing. And then finally, Dennis Hippert, who is going to talk about police leadership. And he's a PhD graduate of our PhD program. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a safe night.